What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Schilling N Stunna podcast. Today we will be previewing the Week 4 matchup against the Washington Commanders. We're 2-1. Cooper Rush is currently saving the season. How do you feel going into this game in Week 4?
Man, I feel good, man. I think as far as matchups, this is exactly what we want, man. Like you said, this is like the worst team in the league as far as protecting the quarterback. First allowed in sacks, 15 on the season so far. And then you're going against a team that leads the league in sacks, you know what I mean? And we're first with 13 so far, man. And I think as far as just to think back, as far as like what we've played so far, you think about Tom Brady, quick release. The second week, you had a Joe Burrow who will hold the ball a little bit longer, try to, manipulate things, make a little bit more plays. We was able to get to him. This last week, it was a whole different story with Daniel Jones, a Russian quarterback. We still was able to get to him a ton. But then you have another guy, Carson Wentz, who likes to hold the ball, who likes to extend plays and, kind of hold it a little bit too long. And when you got guys like Micah and D-Law, I don't think that's the best bet. So I feel good going into it. The only thing that scares me a little bit, I like being underdog. Now I just feel like too many people are kind of getting back on the train with things a little bit. So I kind of want to keep that dog in us, man. I think as far as like how I feel, I think we're going to whoop on them, man. But yeah, that's just me.
I do find it interesting that Carson Wentz hustled everybody the first 2 weeks of the season, and then he finally winced out last week. Yeah, I don't think that there's a path to victory for Washington if Wentz is out again. And I don't think their coaching staff is that impressive. I'm not a huge Ron Rivera guy. He had, one good season in Carolina? Like, he had a bunch of decent seasons, but he had one good season, and that just kind of is what he's riding on now. So I don't think Carson Wentz is the answer in Washington, obviously.
I won't put it all on Wentz, though. I think, in general, man, the offensive line is terrible. And, you know what I mean? It plays right into our hand. I think on paper, and just looking back at the game, they have a great young set of receivers. Like, they have great weapons. Antonio Gibson, I think he's a good running back. They got a good, like I said, team on paper. But when you think about the offensive line, everything goes on offense. You know what I mean? And it will be that kryptonite. And then when you think about the defensive side of the ball, it's kind of the flip side when you think about it. Like, the defensive line is good as far as the interior. I think they're okay at stopping the run. But then on the back end, they're not too good. So, I think as long as we hold up, as far as protecting Cooper Rush, give him time to go through his reads, which I think he'll have time. I think it'll be some opportunities for some big plays. You know what I mean? Getting our playmakers the ball this week, and a lot of opportunities for Yak.
I am very comfortable. I don't know what your thought is on this, but I'm very comfortable letting Dak and Gallup rest up at least another week, sprinkle in a little Peters, just to get him the reps. Yeah. But I don't think we need to rush Gallup in there this week. I don't find it necessary. I think we can survive.
He might be ready. You know what I mean? It's two sides to it. Like, you don't want to rush a guy back if he's not ready, obviously. But just from listening to the reports that's coming out, like last week, they say he looked really good. They say he kind of pulled the plug back himself, where he was like, "Yeah, I had a good week of practice. You know what I mean? I just want to fine tune a couple more things this week." But I think he's feeling close to 100. They say he was high pulling the ball. He was looking like old Michael Gallup out there. So I think in order to get back to that form, one thing you got to do, you got to play football. You know what I mean? So long as the injury risk is out the way, I don't see why not just go out there and let him get a couple of snaps. He don't need to play 60, you know what I mean, up north of 50 snaps a game or anything. Like, go ahead, get him like 20, 25 snaps and see where he at. Now, Schultz on the other hand, he can rush a little bit. Young tight ends look good.
I think with the what we saw from Hendershot and Ferguson last week, like, we'll be all right weapon-wise. But I think, too, like, Tampa Bay thought Godwin was ready, and he did pluck his hamstring, but that's got to deal with his knee. Like, that didn't just happen.
Yeah.
That's probably
he probably needed more time to ramp up.
Stemming from that.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm worried about it. I don't want to rush him back, and then he's out for like 4 weeks again or something crazy. What do you think the keys to victory are against Washington this week?
I would say this week, obviously you want to contain the run game. My whole thing is, obviously, I don't want to say sell out the run, but obviously once you hold, you know what I mean, Antonio Gibson down, contain him, obviously contain Curtis Samuel. He seems to be a guy that like to give him the ball long, intermediate, and even like running the ball. You know what I mean? Just give him as much opportunity as possible. We contain those two, and I think just kind of force them into passing sets, third and long, whatever that may be. pin these guys deep. You know what I mean? It's a big week for special teams. I want to pin them deep. And I want to force Carson Wentz to drive them through the field. And the more opportunities he has to drive this field, the more opportunities he'll give us to get this ball. And look, we've been a good team so far on defense, but the one thing that hasn't been the same this year is turnovers. And at some point, look, we got to kick that door down. And I feel like, why not this week? You know what I mean? We've been getting close. Trayvon Diggs close. He finally got one at the end of the last game. But I feel like, when is that game where we go ahead and we pile it on? I feel like as long as we get ahead, if we can go get the ball early, score one time, force them to want to pass, I think they'll be in for a long day.
I do think last year was kind of an outlier as far as turnovers goes. Like, we shouldn't expect that many. That was kind of out of the ordinary. But where we are with sacks don't equal turnovers. But when you drop on a guy for -5 yards, -6 yards, that just kills drives completely.
No, I agree.
Because if you decide to pass,
I agree. It was definitely an outlier. You can't expect us to have that same output. I mean, it'd be great. You know what I mean? Like Trayvon Diggs and everybody and you know what I mean, as far as the turnovers that we was putting out, man. Like I said, that's hard to replicate. But in general, man, we're like 28th in the league right now in turnovers in general. So that's something we have to improve on. I don't want to sell out for the turnovers, obviously, but I feel like in general, man, just, you know, how the football guys work, you know, a couple balls or will fall away. We was close. You see the Malik Hooker with the near strip on, you know what I mean, on Sterling Shepard to the sideline. We thought we had that one. Trayvon Diggs, he's been inches and inches away every week. It just seemed like we always there. And then we had the one last week where I think it was Fowler that had the sack, strip sack. Michael recovered. They didn't give it to us. So it's like the turnovers have been there, but we haven't been able to, you know what I mean, just go ahead and kind of grab hold of that and put the imprint on. So I think this week, if you go ahead and pin a team back, a team that wants to be opportunistic as Washington will, because one thing about Wentz, he likes to take his deep shots. And when he takes his deep shots against a team like this, hey, listen, have at it. That's all I can say.
As far as my keys to victory this week, I'm not comparing Curtis Samuel in any way to Tyreek Hill, but I do think their offense is flowing through him right now. He opens up things for a Terry McLaurin, a Jahan Dotson. Containing him, I believe, slows everything down. And I think last week Philadelphia did a phenomenal job of shutting Curtis Samuel down compared to what happened the first 2 weeks of the season. So I don't know, like, if we need to roll a safety over to that side every time. But the biggest thing, man, is the penalties. We got lucky last week. We had 8, but so did New York. And there was a couple offsetting penalties. The penalties kill us, especially holding calls. Holding calls just kill drives.
It was some ticky-tack ones, man. But I think I agree with that for the most part, yeah. And then you got a team like Washington who, believe it or not, they're a very disciplined team going into the 4th week of the season. I think they're fourth in the league of penalties at this point. So they've been disciplined, and us on the other hand, you know our history. So yeah, for sure.
I think the only way for us to lose this week is if we beat ourselves, and that would be us turning the ball over, us causing penalties. But also, we got to get this offense humming. I think we have 3 touchdowns on the season going into week 4. It might be 2. I know CeeDee's got one and Noah's got one. Zeke had one too, yeah?
Yeah, we got a couple. Pollard got one. 2?
4. Maybe it's passing. Yeah, 2 passing touchdowns on the year is what it is. 2 passing touchdowns on the year. We got to pick that up. Obviously, I'm not expecting Cooper Rush to come out there and throw for 4 touchdowns. Manage the game, run the ball, control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, and don't beat yourself. I think that's the keys to victory this week.